Welcome to episode 4 of the UConn basketball show by 860 and UCTV. Yep, I'm excited to announce that 860 Productions has teamed up with UCTV for this basketball season, and sports director Noam will be joining me on the show today, as well as all future episodes. Some UConn fans may be familiar with some of Noam's work. I'm really excited about his addition to the show. Noam will be bringing you guys a little more professional journalism insight into this Huskies team, rather than me just ranting on about how I think we're going to win another national championship. Shout out UConn Nation. Thank you guys for checking in again. We finally have actual basketball games to talk about this episode. I'm absolutely jacked up about UConn basketball being back. And for the future, we're going to be doing episodes weekly. Going to be trying to releasing them on Monday or Tuesday. Either way, they'll be early in the week. Hit that subscribe button to stay up to date. I appreciate everyone's support. It's been really cool to see some of the responses from you guys. Hopefully I can bring you better and better UConn content each week. All right, Husky fans, let's get into today's episode. I now welcome on Noam from UCTV. 2 games down, 2 wins in the bag for UConn. The Huskies opened up play against CCSU Wednesday night with a victory 102-75. Noam, let's start with your initial reactions to UConn's first game of the season.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me. Always excited to talk UConn basketball. Wednesday night, CCSU, it was a pretty bad first half. They really struggled defensively, didn't really build any sort of lead or flow in their game plan at all. They didn't really look like they were playing a team from a low major conference that had 4 wins a year ago. Second half, though, they turned it on, ran away, coasted pretty easily, even got, end of the bench in at the end of the game, which was definitely nice to see the debuts of guys like Javonte Brown and even Coach Hurley's son, Andrew. So, 1-0, can't ask for much more than that.
Exactly. That's the thing that matters, that one victory in that win column. That's the big thing that matters. For me, though, the thing that stood out for me was the amount of talent on this team. I mean, I haven't seen a UConn team with this kind of talent, I feel like, since maybe 2014-ish. It was not the best start overall, but what made me feel good was when they were down, I wasn't ever worried. I think in the past couple of years when they were down, I'm like, oh, here we go again. We could actually lose this game. Where this game never really felt out of hand. Never really felt worried. It was a good sign for me. And UConn had a lot of players making their first appearance in the Huskies uniform. Of those players, which one impressed you the most?
For me, it's got to be Adama Finogo. The guy is just an absolute tank. And he has great hands around the rim, good footwork, solid defensively. I think that he could be a one-and-done prospect, especially, I think, come Big East play. I think he's going to be in the starting lineup alongside Whaley in the front court. And I really think that if he continues to show flashes of solid defense and great hands around the rim, the guy's got a chance to be a mid-20s pick in the NBA draft. I didn't really expect it from him. There wasn't a ton of footage from him coming out of high school. I expected him to be a little bit raw, but when he came in, he looked like a veteran. He didn't look uncomfortable at all. He knew what he was doing. He was never out of place. Super impressive. But how about you? Yeah, like you said, a lot of newcomers, transfers, and new guys.
Yeah, I mean, Adama really did impress me. I kind of wanted to lean that way, but I had to go with RJ Cole. He had a sneaky 17 points. He really ran the offense well. I think he's going to be putting in like a sneaky double-digit points like per game. I think he will probably be behind James Bouknight in our leading scorers. He impressed me a lot. The Howard transfer, I mean, he showed really well. But I agree with the Adama point. I mean, the offensive boards. He was the guy we need. Kind of, a Kofi Cockburn type center that may have replaced him, but I like Adama. He showed very well.
Yeah, so I was actually just texting my buddy the other day, like, man, imagine if we got Kofi last year, because that dude is a beast. I can't believe he stayed at Illinois his second year, because I think he would have been one of the best 2 or 3 bigs in the draft this year. I think Illinois is going to be ridiculous. It's a sad miss for UConn that they didn't get him, but Adama is great consolation. I think he's going to be an outstanding player as well. And yeah, RJ, I think if he puts up quiet, mid double-digit scoring games, 15, 18, 20, around there, I think that's going to go a long way in supporting James Bouknight as the leading guy for UConn. And it's just going to, like you said, this team has a ton of depth, a ton of talent, and RJ Cole is one of those guys that's just going to put up buckets quietly every single game.
I agree. And like you mentioned, it wasn't the cleanest game for UConn. Definitely not on defense. Gave over 70 points to Central. I think a lot was given to, they haven't played a game in 8 months almost. And then they also had the 14-day coronavirus shutdown right before. So there was a lot of rust and a slow start, which I expected, but it wasn't very concerning for me. Were you concerned after that game?
I wasn't necessarily concerned. Like you said, the COVID shutdown definitely played a role. Dan Hurley always prides himself on his team's defense and grit and toughness. And we didn't really see that against CCSU, but part of that was, they didn't practice for 2 weeks. And for a lot of these guys who are new to the team, that's tough. But on the flip side, little concerning because CCSU had just 4 wins last year, and UConn allowed them to shoot 54% overall and 57% from 3. And against a team like that, you can't let that happen. They only averaged 63 points a game last year, 75 against UConn, but they rebounded against Hartford, which I'm sure we'll get into a little more. So defense, I'm not worried about at all. I think by Big East play, turn of the new year, this team is going to be solid defensively. They have so much length and so much depth that they can press like crazy. They can trap like crazy. They can just get steals up and down the lineup. So I'm not really worried about the defense at all.
Who would be your player of the game for the Central game?
Player of the game? I'm going to go with Adama Sanogo just because of what we didn't know going in. He was super impressive to me. When he came in, I was excited, but I was cautiously optimistic. I thought he would struggle a little bit, especially on the defensive end, but he didn't at all. His stat line wasn't super impressive, but just seeing his presence out there definitely for me was exciting. Makes him my player of the game. But how about you?
Mine would go Brendan Adams. I mean, the improvements he's made from offseason to offseason has been remarkable. I mean, he's becoming one of our top players. And when he was a freshman, I mean, it was kind of like, what are we going to get out of this guy, And he's really turned into a great player. He had 15 points, 3 threes. But I like your point about Adama. And the good thing about him is, like Brendan Adams, he's only going to get better with time. And you've seen that with Dan Hurley. He's really shown improvements within players over time. And
Brendan Adams' jump shot has definitely improved year to year. Especially in that CCSU game, he just looked comfortable as could be. Pulling up from everywhere. I was impressed. He showed it last year in Charleston. I think it was might have been the Xavier game. He just had a great game. And it was like, whoa, Brendan Adams, he can be a real piece in this lineup, not just, an 8th or 9th guy off the bench. So yeah, looking for Brendan to play a big role this year. He's got to be the 6th man off the bench, every single game, pouring in 8 points, grabbing 4 boards and dishing out 3 to 5 assists a game. That's got to be Brendan's game. Can't force shots, just got to take what the defense gives him because quite frankly, teams aren't really going to be preparing for him off the bench. There's too many other guys to prepare for. So I think that he's got the potential to have just a super solid all-around year.
Totally agree. Well, the Huskies were quickly back in action Friday night against Hartford, where they earned a 69-57 victory. They went out to a big lead in the first half and then slowed down the second half. What were some of your thoughts from that game?
Defense, number one, was significantly better. Late in the first half, Hartford was shooting just 19% from the field. They finished at 32%. And if you hold teams under 40%, you're going to win every single basketball game. UConn did, like you said, get out to a big lead. It was 36-17 with just over 3 minutes to go in the first. And from there, they sort of stepped off the gas a little bit. And you heard Dan Hurley talk about it post-game, the immaturity of this team, which worries me a little bit that they're a little young. They don't necessarily have as much veteran experience as some other teams in the Big East. So they got to learn how to play with a lead. That's a big takeaway from this game for me. But, 2-0, much better defensively, which is what we needed to see off a quick turnaround. So can't really ask for much more. The defense was very satisfying for me.
Can't imagine how much Dan Hurley drilled it into those guys to play hard defense that game. Tyrese Martin made his debut for the Huskies after having to sit out the first game for playing in an unsanctioned pickup basketball game. But he looked very well. He had 10 rebounds, 6 points. What did you think of Tyrese Martin?
I thought Tyrese Martin played a great game. First of all, how ridiculous that he gets suspended the game on game day for playing in an unsanctioned game over the summer when the NCAA wouldn't even tell him if his waiver was approved or not. That's just ridiculous.
Classic NCAA.
Right, you're right. Classic NCAA. But Tyrese was great. 10 rebounds really stood out to me and 5 off the offensive glass. The dude is a beast out there. He's huge. I just couldn't get over how big he looked out there. He can handle the ball. He can run in transition. He can guard 1 through 5 in the lineup. He can snatch offensive boards. He can shoot. He can finish at the rim. What can't this guy do? In post-game, Dan Hurley said it. He said Tyrese Martin is going to get more minutes going forward. I think, quite frankly, that Tyrese Martin is going to be a starter come the end of the season because he is that good and he offers that much. So for him to make his debut Friday and for a Cook to make his debut probably later in December, this team has so much depth. It's going to be Dan Hurley's hardest roster to manage because of how much talent he has.
Going off that, it's going to take some time to figure out the rotation and lineups. The one downside of having so much talent is trying to figure out the right mix. It's a problem you don't mind having, but it is an issue right now. And after 2 games, you saw the veteran guards. They all look great, all posed to even have a big night. And then seniors, Tyler Polley and Isaiah Whaley showed very well. And then freshman Adama Sango and Javonte Brown looked huge and great down low. I mean, the fight for minutes going forward is going to be tough, and given the coronavirus making it a shortened season, it's even a tougher fight. So, these circumstances, that's going to be tough trying to figure out the right lineup.
Yeah, I actually predicted the lineup going into opening day. I didn't think Tyrese Martin was going to start even if he was eligible, just because he was brand new to the system. And I knew that Jalen Gaffney, who has experience and who never turns the ball over, he has 1 turnover in 60 minutes of play so far. That's incredible. That's a full game and a half of action, just 1 turnover. So I knew he was going to start. I'm not sure if I necessarily love him and RJ and Bouknight starting in the same lineup. I think going forward, I personally might want to see RJ come off the bench. He's automatic offense. He's a great facilitator when he takes care of the basketball. So I might want to see going forward Gaffney, Bouknight, Tyrese Martin, Isaiah Whaley, and Adama Sanogo. A little bit of a change up. I think that we might see Sanogo come into the lineup come Big East play. But yeah, this rotation is deep. I think that Andre Jackson isn't going to play as much as people expect, quite frankly. Brendan Adams is a similar type of player, that 2 or 3 shooting guard, small forward combo, and he just has more experience. Andre really looked like a freshman these first 2 games, and it's going to take a while for him to get his feet underneath him. Personally, Isaiah Whaley, I think, should start every single basketball game. The dude, all he does is play hard, and I don't understand where he was the first 2.5 seasons of his UConn career, because it's not like you can just flip a switch and become as good as he is at basketball. I think he's a first-team all-conference defender. He can block shots, off rotations, off ball screens, off guys driving on the fast break. He can dribble. He can facilitate. He's a great passer. He had a nice pass from the paint to RJ Cole for a corner 3. Isaiah Whaley is just quietly such a very, very solid all-around player, and I hope that he starts every single game. From there, Bouknight's going to start every game, but this lineup, there's so much talent. It's going to be honestly exciting and a challenge to see what Dan Hurley does with it.
We all knew UConn's schedule was subject to change this year, and that's exactly what happened Sunday morning when Vanderbilt dropped out of the Legends Classic due to COVID. And UConn's schedule then got changed to 2 games this week instead of 3, and they'll be playing USC at Mohegan in Bubbleville on Thursday night, and then they'll be playing NC State on Saturday at noon in Bubbleville as well. I'm really excited about the Pac-12 matchup against the Trojans. How about you, Noam?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Honestly, this is the best case scenario for UConn. You're still playing 2 power conference opponents, and that Vanderbilt game wasn't going to do much anyways because they are a really bad team. So if you beat them, it wouldn't have gone down as a quality win. If you had lost to them, though, it would have gone down as a bad loss. So you get an extra couple of days for practice, and then you still play 2 power conference opponents. And yeah, the Trojans and Huskies Thursday is going to be a good one. USC is a strong team. They won 22 games last year. We're on the cusp of an NCAA berth yet again under Andy Enfield, and they're led by Evan Mobley, the number 2 recruit in the country this year. He's a freshman, as well as his brother, a sophomore, Isaiah Whaley. They also have a strong point guard in sophomore Ethan Anderson. This is a team that just scraps and claws their way to a lot of wins. They're not particularly talented, not a great free throw shooting team, but they just scratch and claw and find ways to win games, very similar to what Dan Hurley's Huskies have done for years.
I agree. I do think this is a best case scenario almost. I like the extra days of practice. Vanderbilt wasn't a great resume booster or anything. So I like this scenario, and I think we have a real chance of going 4-0 before the start of Big East play this week. Is anything other than 2-0 a disappointment?
I think so. I mean, you should be USC. You're a better team than them. You got more talent and much more depth. It's a USC team with a lot of new guys. Meanwhile, NC State, it's a team that loves to push the pace, play up-tempo and aggressive defense. They have a lot of depth as well. But, UConn, in their 3rd year under Hurley, they really should be able to pull away from NC State in the second half. It's about not getting beat in transition and stopping the 3 ball. So against NC State, it's defense. But if they play up to, a good level of play, I'm not saying they need to play exceptional basketball because I think they're the better team in both these matchups. I think they'll go 2-0 and head into Big East play at 4-0, which is what every Husky fan wants.
Going 4-0 into Big East play would be absolutely awesome. And with Big East play starting next Friday, we'll be doing a new episode recapping the Legends Classic next week, and then looking forward to UConn's return to the Big East against St. John's on the 11th. I'm pumped up, Noam.
Yeah, it should be fun. Can't wait for it to finally be here. Big East play will be a good time for sure.
Very much so. Well, thank you for coming on. We'll see you next week. Go Huskies.